Eu vou começar a entrevista. Hoje eu vou conversar com a Nilima Bhat. Ela é facilitadora de transformação pessoal, coach individual de organizações em busca de uma evolução de consciência. Ela é palestrante internacional e instrutora de cultura corporativa, negócios conscientes e mulheres em posições de liderança. Ela é coautora do livro Liderança Shakti, junto com o Raj Sisodia. E hoje, o nosso objetivo dessa entrevista, desse podcast, é que você conheça a Nilima e desperte o seu interesse em conhecer mais sobre a liderança Shakti, depois, obviamente, de ler o livro. So, Nilima, it's such a gift for us, especially for me, to be here with you and have this Shakti leadership translated to Portuguese. So, what you could tell us about your experience with the Brazilian people?
I've been very delighted. It's been a week now of traveling and speaking in very mixed audiences, from Brasilia's Bancub company managers to startup entrepreneurs in Sao Paulo, LATAM retail conference, and now this wonderful big retreat. What I notice is Brazilians are naturally very comfortable with feminine and masculine, which is unusual for the rest of the world. Apparently, the Portuguese language contains masculine and feminine in the language already. Every word in Portuguese is either feminine or masculine. Nouns are feminine or masculine.
Yes.
So I think in the matrix of the culture, the idea of masculine and feminine already exists, and therefore people are very ready to listen to masculine and feminine leadership. That is healthy masculine, healthy feminine, masculine, feminine values and behaviors, which is what creates a balanced leader. I find Brazilians are very ready for the message. They're open and receptive.
Perfect, because my next question is just about the female and the male balance that the Shakti leadership proposed. And it's not about gender, it's about forces, but it's also about gender.
Yes.
Please, could you tell us about these forces and their impact in our lives?
So, like the Chinese system says, there is the Tao, which contains two forces, yin and yang. So everything is a system. Whether it's a human being or nature, everything is a system that contains these two forces, which are equal and opposite, complementary. It is the interchange of these forces, the movement of these two forces, that creates a dynamic equilibrium and keeps the system in a state of energy and health. Because when these two move, chi is developed. Shakti force is released into the system, so the fuel is generated to keep the system energized, right?
Perfect.
So each of us contains a masculine energy and a feminine energy, regardless of gender. And so we need to know how to work with both to be in a state of health and equilibrium.
Perfect, thank you very much. And as we learn more about the Shakti leadership, the heroic and heroine journey, more we recognize that is no boundaries between our personal life and our corporate life. But most of us, including me in the past, is not so obvious the same life, no? And it takes a long journey to realize that, or even you don't realize. So I will ask you to invite our listening, our video expectation, to begin this journey with some awakened advices or thoughts.
Yeah, basically to realize that when there is a crisis in your life, personally or professionally, you need to see it as a blessing. That in some way life is giving you an opportunity to go on a journey to face your fear and to find your courage and to develop new capacities and new ways of dealing with things. So in the process, the crisis or the challenge becomes the blessing through which you grow. And we tend to separate our personal life from our professional life, not realizing that the leader you are is the person you are. You'll only be as effective in work as you are effective as a person. So you have to do the inner work of self-transformation, self-discovery, self-mastery. Only then will you be able to come in service of your work in the right way. So you can't separate your personal self from your professional self.
Perfect. And just to close, Brazilian people are living a very special moment now. We need to redefine our political leadership. So, how we could use the Shakti elements of leadership to recognize the more prepared candidate?
Great question. I think at a minimum you've got to see which of these candidates is most present. You know, which of these candidates is not having something to defend or promote or fear. None of us is fully present. That requires an enlightened master. But certainly from your candidates, you can see who shows less ego and more presence, you know, which is to be outside of the ego and to be in touch with a larger sense of what's good for everybody, right? That is a present leader. You can also look at your candidates and say which of these leaders exercises win-win power
Yes.
versus win-lose power. Because right there you will see the win-win power person has more Shakti, and the win-lose has less Shakti. Then you look at a psychological wholeness, you know, is this a person who has a good balance of masculine and feminine energy? Is someone who knows how to get things done, is a strong leader when it comes to making important, tough decisions, but does it in a way that is not dictatorial, does it in a way that is compassionate and inclusive of taking everybody along. The victory is not just for themselves, but for the whole, right? So that is a good balance of masculine and feminine energy, so wholeness. And to know how to be flexible, you know, not just always stuck in one mode, but knows how to adapt to a situation. So, and last would be congruence, which is a person who is led by a sense of purpose, a higher purpose, rather than self-interest.
Perfect. Perfect. Thank you very much, Nilima.
Thank you.
Obrigada. Espero que vocês tenham gostado. Nos vemos na próxima.